send it to you because I don't get Facebook on here. Okay. Oh no.
I've always wanted to do that. Okay. For the past 6 years, I feel as if I've only really had my brain on in school for the 40 minutes or more a day I spend in the band room. There's a sense of collectiveness and almost a hive mind that takes effect when one plays in a large group. An innate desire to please the queen bee, which in this case is a 30-year-old man who spends a good deal of time in the gym and is the only teacher I know who wears clothes almost as tight as mine. However, during the time when this man is our queen bee, there's a captivating focus that overcomes the band. It is an incredible force. A force so strong that it can occasionally keep Noah Goldman quiet for a whole 5 minutes. A force so strong that it can make 60 teenagers not look at their phones for a half an hour. And a force so strong that for one period and I like to think my fellow bandmates, feel engaged, inspired, and proud of something they do in school. How can one sum up what we did in band this year? In a word, excellent. But this single label leaves out so much of what actually happened. We set out with a goal this year. Though this goal was not ultimately met, what one learns by looking at this year is that the journey is far more important than the destination. My first significant band memory from the year was in a rather unlikely spot. Before the homecoming game, I was with the rest of the football team in the wrestling room. This unfortunately meant that I was unable to be with the team, with the band, for our first performance of the year. But since the wrestling room was right below the spot where the band was playing, I was able to hear the entire performance. While my teammates were getting ready for the game, I was focused on how the wind ensemble sounded. Perhaps that was why I didn't play much that game. That game also happened to be the only one the team managed to win this year. People may say we won that game because of the hard work of the team, or because of the mistakes made by the opponent, or because of the spirit felt by the team on homecoming. However, I think the real key to victory was the band's inspiring performance of We Found Love an hour before kickoff. One of my fondest memories from this year is when I first listened to the winter concert. When you're actually playing, it can be difficult to discern the sound that the audience experiences. So when I first heard the winter concert recording, I couldn't believe how astute and professional the sound I heard was, particularly on like this. That concert was an awe-inspiring display of musicianship on the part of my bandmates, and after having heard that, I realized just how special this group of people is. In spite of the constraints of the 40-minute period, we managed to put on a show that I will most definitely be playing for my children. No pressure. After the winter concert, there is a week before December break where the band just gets to relax, watch movies, and enjoy each other's time. This is a very important period of time because, as every person in Wind Ensemble knows, when we return in the new year, it will be the start of Disney prep, and so if you don't bring your A game then, there's a chance Mr. T may morph into a fire-breathing dragon and eat you whole. This year, bringing your A game meant not just putting in the standard 40 minutes of class time with the occasional sectional, but also bringing it after school for another 45 minutes at what came to be affectionately referred to as armpit. This meant that it was possible to spend 2 hours a day in the band room with Mr. T, and on certain Mondays, this too could turn into 5 for those ensemblists and jazz band. With all of this in mind, I think it is very fair to say that this is the hardest working band by some length in the history of the Wind Ensemble. After 4 months of spending more time each day with Mr. T than I spent with my parents, we packed our instruments and bags and went to Florida for the big competition. Once in Florida, we spent 2 days running around like children who've been fed a combination of Starbucks, crack, and jet fuel, trying to suck up all the Disney fairy dust we could while in the parks. Then, sunburned, exhausted, and not having rehearsed for 3 days, we put our instruments up to our lips and hoped that what would come out would be labeled as superior. Unfortunately, 3 old men with fancy degrees decided that we deserved one word instead of another, and the word that 2 years ago caused raucous celebration throughout the band, this year was met with tears, which is a clear display of how far the band has come in those years. This, in my mind, was the moment I realized how successful the year had been. Now, understandably, many of you may be wondering how this moment of perceived failure to meet one's goal made me realize that we had been successful this year. However, this depends on several things. First, of course, what exactly our goal was this year. Anyone whose goal is primarily to receive a specific adjective from a board of 3 old men is living a relatively narrow existence and completely missing the point of music, in my opinion. Quote Jack Black, rocking about getting an A. I've always felt our goal as the wind ensemble has always been twofold and is stated in the name. First and foremost, our goal is to make beautiful music on wind instruments, hence the first word. And anyone who's heard the winter concert CD and/or the not yet released spring concert CD will most definitely admit that we went above and beyond that goal this year. The second is to be an ensemble, which according to Merriam-Webster is a group producing a single effect. More specifically, the second goal of Wind Ensemble is to take the incredibly diverse group of personalities, ideas, and talents present in its many members and synthesize from this one cohesive sound and one united group. After having seen the visceral way that so many members of the Wind Ensemble reacted upon receiving our adjudication, I'd say that we most definitely were not just a mere band this year, but a genuine ensemble. When I look back on the music we played this year, and the time I've spent in the Wind Ensemble these past 4 years, or 3 years rather, and 1 year in symphonic band, what will stick out in my mind is the way each year, facing new challenges, new faces, and a room full of 60 ornery teens, Mr. T finds a way to create an ensemble worthy of praise without fail. This evening would not be complete without taking a moment to appreciate all that Mr. Tuminelli does for the ensemble and for the Calvin instrumental program as a whole. For every 10 minutes of time we spend practicing or fretting about band, Mr. T spends an hour ruminating over song choice, style, or a myriad of other topics related to the musical direction of the band. While this year we occasionally spent over 2 hours practicing wind ensemble music in one school day, Mr. T spent every day throughout the entire year devoted to our goals as a wind ensemble. I'd ask that each and every ensemblist here this evening take the time to go up to Mr. T and personally thank him for what he's done for us, because without his dedication, the band would not be as incredible and special a group as it is. I'd also like to thank all 60 or so members of the wind ensemble I got to spend my time in high school with. Without the dedication and spirit demonstrated by the members of the ensemble, this year would have been an utter failure. But because of it, this year was one we will all remember when we are old and gray. I'd also like to thank all the wind ensemble parents for doing your part this year by supporting your kids and nagging them to practice, and by chopping off an arm and a leg to send your kid and the ensemble back to Disney for the third time in 4 years. In particular, I'd like to thank my parents who decided to spend their 29th anniversary of marriage here tonight. It pains me that moving on in my life means no longer being a member of the wind ensemble. But I know that while I move toward a new destination in life, the time I've put in and lessons I've learned from Mr. T and the myriad of people I've been in wind ensemble with will go on with me the rest of my life till I am old and gray. Thank you very much.